Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And Dave.
Hey.
Welcome back. Welcome back, Dave.
Throwback. Don't delete it. This is current.
This is current. This is not an old episode, I swear. We are recording in the year 2019. Verified new episode.
Hey, we made it.
Congratulations, I guess. I'm not really excited about it, to be perfectly honest. But here we are. But we're having Dave on because there was an open here in Columbus, and it was a team open, and you guys teamed up with Elliot Mork, another friend of the show, and we definitely wanted to get your guys' as much as possible. We could have had Elliot on, but he doesn't do things during the week, so
No, yeah, that wouldn't have been possible.
so we wanted to get as much information from this weekend that we that we could, and we have some other things to talk about that happened in the community, as well as Ravnica Allegiance. We have a few cards that we could potentially talk about as well, and it's nice to have another opinion about that. So why don't we just jump right in with some good news?
Yeah, starting the year off right.
Alex Bertoncini, notorious cheater, has received a lifetime ban from Wizards of the Coast, that he can no longer play in any sanctioned Magic tournaments for as long as he lives.
Amen. I don't know, like the way you said, the way you worded that. Like, oh man.
But this was in connection to, I think, that he had a recent disqualification for cheating at an
local
event.
game store.
Yeah.
I say local. It was in California. Is that right?
I thought it was at a side event, but
it was
all
before
hearsay. I
GP
don't
Vancouver.
know.
Yeah, a lot of this is, I heard this or I heard that. But something happened, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back, which,
Finally.
Yeah, finally. And, this was updated on the 7th, so yesterday was when it was actually updated by Wizards. And there was a lot of, there was a lot of rejoicing from the Magic community on Twitter, and that's not surprising. It's definitely someone that we don't want in our community. But the truly ironic thing is he was at a judge conference and held a seminar for judges on how to identify cheaters. And it worked too well. They got him. He done played himself.
No, actually, most people said that he did a really bad job at that conference. That he sort of casually went over some very bland things and didn't actually go into any depth. Weird how that works.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, guys. I can't show you the best.
It's like a magician,
myself,
Yeah, you never reveal all your secrets. But yeah, he's gone, so that's fantastic. Got to work on what Jared Betcher. Is he next on the list?
Carvalho. What?
Oh
no, I'm sorry. He just gets to play in the pro league. I forgot. Someday.
Him and Mike Segrist are going back and forth for Mythic rank 1
yeah.
on Arena.
Is that limited or constructed?
I'm pretty sure it's limited, yeah.
Gotcha.
Those are both limited masters. So.
I've done 5 drafts on Arena now, and I'm gold rank 4.
Congratulations.
Or 3. I don't know. There's a lot of weird gold ranks. So
I don't even know what all the ranks are.
So you have
diamond,
bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, mythic.
There you go. Okay.
Cool. So
I'm platinum 2.
I got at least
constructed.
2 major strip club rankings to go.
There you
so
go.
That's good. Both diamond and platinum.
So moving on from that, there's another thing that's happening with the orcs. If you don't know who that is necessarily, it's the
Those are the bad guys in Lord of the Rings.
To make a Helm's Deep reference. Good job. Oh my god.
they are the basically the digital customer service team for Magic Online and Arena.
Yeah, they wear brass claws. It's weird.
And they were the people that helped with if you had like a question in game or something like that, usually they would answer it or help with like reimbursements for failed events, stuff like that. They're actually being outsourced. They were currently outsourced to a American company. I think PAI is the name, and now they're being internationally outsourced. So that may or may not affect the type of service that we get, but it's kind of disheartening to see that, the people here in the States are going to be kind of out of a job kind of abruptly from the reports that we've seen on Reddit.
Yeah, there's like terminated contracts, which is like cool when you have, as someone who works on a contract, it's kind of like frustrating to be like, oh, by the way, we've just decided to say this is void now. So that's good.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Again, this has happened countless times with a lot of different kind of companies for a lot of different kind of things. But if they're, you have any listeners that are affected by this or know people, we wish you the best and hope that you can find gainful employment here soon, and that's real unfortunate. And I hope it doesn't hurt the actual overall service that you would get from an orc if you did need an assistance or help, because they don't need things to get any worse over there.
No, they really don't.
I'm pretty sure. So
I would not check for employment with the federal government currently.
no,
that
that would
not
be a
fruitful.
bad road to
So,
take currently if you
just throwing
are
that out there.
it's not good.
Yeah.
So no good prospects over there, unfortunately. But lastly, we want to talk about Ravnica Allegiance a little bit. We have almost all the cards. I guess not almost all the cards, but spoiler season is almost over, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're what, next, not this coming weekend, but the weekend after is pre-release?
Yeah, so we'll have this set this Friday.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And there are a lot of things that have been spoiled. We have all the Planeswalkers. We are going to be doing a Palooza for this. Dave, I hope you can also attend this Palooza.
He already told me he wanted to.
Okay,
so.
perfect. Well, we'll make it work. We'll figure it out. But there's just a ton of cards, obviously, to talk about. And I didn't know if you guys wanted to bring up a few good ones to kind of discuss for a little bit before we get started with some of the tournaments.
Let's talk about at least one of the Planeswalkers. Let's talk about Dovin, Grand Arbiter.
Dovin Bond.
So this is generic white and a blue for a 3 loyalty legendary Planeswalker, Dovin. 3 abilities. The first is +1. Until end of turn, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may put a loyalty counter on Dovin Grand Arbiter. So for each one. -1, create a 1/1 colorless Slopter artifact creature token with flying. You gain 1 life. -7, look at the top 10 cards of your library. Put 3 of them into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. This is a really, really interesting blue-white Planeswalker. Just because I don't think we've seen anything quite like it. There are definitely Planeswalkers, and this is where it gets kind of interesting, because I think that Dovin's quite good, but Dovin has a lot of characteristics that remind you of Planeswalkers that haven't been very good, right? Like it's like, oh, you can tick up and get a bunch of loyalty put on it, so you can ultimate over and over again. So like, the green-white Planeswalker that's in standard that currently doesn't see any play.
Literally can't, like, Huatli.
Yeah, that's good.
Radiant something or other.
Radiant Champion.
There we go.
I opened one of those on Arena, and I was like, "Why? This is not okay." Or it encourages you to attack with creatures, so you can, and it takes down to make a token. So and it's 3 mana, so it's Jace,
Cutting Castaway, buff Jace,
right? But I don't know. There's a lot of other people who have said that this is Bitter Blossom, and I kind of agree with them. So I don't know where I'm at with this, but I do like the fact that they had to make a Planeswalker that played differently from Jace, from Teferi, and this is that for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely a Planeswalker that tells you that you should have at least some amount of creatures that can attack.
But does it?
I
mean, it brings its own party.
Right, exactly. But I mean, like, even in that, it means that you should be attacking with these tokens potentially.
That's true.
I'm not saying you have to play this in a creature deck at all. There are plenty of experts that play this game professionally that have said that you don't need creatures other than Dovin. Like, you don't need creatures other than the party that Dovin Bond brings. At least he's not killing what's the Filigree Familiars. At least he's not killing those anymore.
That's true.
I'm glad he's progressed, because when his tick down was like murder one of those, right? Draw a card and gain 2 life.
Yeah. I'm thinking like South Park, like when they had, was it Christopher Reeves, like literally like drinking like babies so he could get their stem cells. Right?
Good Lord.
Like, hey, that's the thing they did. I
understand, but man,
it was gruesome. I mean, that's what it was, but like that's what I feel like it was. Like, man, I'm really thirsty. I need filigree. the familiar taste.
Bring me a fox.
Come on, the familiar taste. Come on.
That's good. You got me there.
Dear Lord.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, I think that it's weird because you're like, it's like you said, this reminds you of like good cards and bad cards,
but all at the same time.
What
do you think of it, Dave?
Dovin? Yeah. I like it because the abilities kind of go against each other, so you kind of have to decide which way you're going to go with it. I don't know. I don't think it's like overpowered or anything like that, but I think it's an interesting design, and I like that they just made it like, yeah, this seems good, but in order to get maximum potential out of it, you're probably going to want to build around it a little bit. So probably going to want some amount of creatures, even though pros might say otherwise.
And with the play style of playing a Dovin, ticking it down for the straight turns, and then playing the second Dovin.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, you could just do that, but I mean, also you could just play,
creatures.
Splash blue,
Yeah.
play white weenie, splash
I've also
blue
seen
for
a
this.
number of lists that have like this and a Danta Vanguard with each other, and man, that feels
Yeah.
pretty good too. So
Yeah, the Vanguard he does like to attack.
yeah,
So.
so we'll try to hold off on some of the Planeswalkers so we can talk about them during the Palooza. But I will say, regardless of their varying degree of good or bad, looking at you, Kaya, they are at least interesting designs. All three of them. None of them seem to fit that cookie cutter.
Yeah, the 5 mana, take up
exactly.
card advantage, take down, take care of something on the board. Ultimate that is good.
Right, like honestly, like Dovins and also like even Domers is kind of like that, but like
Domers.
well, some of the ultimate like even there though isn't just like immediately win. So
No.
I think it's pretty interesting, and I like Dovin's design a lot. So
I think it just makes Magic more interesting when we don't have planeswalkers like Teferi, Chandra,
Right.
Gideon, Ally of Zendikar. These cards just warped standard,
yeah, I mean we still have some pretty good ones in standard with Teferi, and we have
Karn's still kicking around, he's still pretty good.
Karn's also very good. Vraska, Relic Seeker is very good. So we still have some powerful ones, but it's nice to see that like, hey, these are in the mix. So that's good.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want these ones to be too powerful because two of them that both Dovin and Kaya do cost 3 mana.
Right.
So they have to definitely play a little bit more carefully with making planeswalkers that cost 3 mana that are warping, like Liliana, The Last Hope, or Liliana the Veil. They gotta stop making 3 mana Lilianas. They're always good.
I'm gonna say they're probably done with that.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
don't think we'll see any more 3 mana Lilianas.
Yeah, it's true. But I think they just are playing a little bit more carefully when designing these sort of cards and being okay with them just being narrow. And when we talk about Kaya and the Palooza, like that's just her design is just narrow. So we'll leave you a little something to intrigue you to listen to the Palooza.
What else do we want to talk about?
I want to talk about the 4 mana Wrath that we have in this set.
Oh, you mean Ghostbusting?
Yes, I imagine that it makes Kaya feel good.
It makes her feel very good. Yes.
Kaya's Wrath, a white black sorcery. Destroy all creatures. You gain life equal to the number of creatures you controlled that were destroyed this way. I think this card is good, and people will definitely warp their mana bases to play it.
Yeah,
and I don't think it'll be actually that hard to play.
No, I don't think so.
It may be hard to consistently get on turn 4. I will give you that. But I think we're going to be entering like a golden era of standard mana. We've already been here before, and it was great. And people will do this. People will play Esper, and even if it's just like black, white, splash blue for like Teferi, like people will still do it.
Yeah.
So if you can't get this consistently on turn 4, isn't this just a worse? What was the one that we just had? Where
Fumigate.
Isn't this just a worse Fumigate if you're not casting it on
Yes.
turn 4 consistently?
Potentially, but if you cast it on turn 4, it's way better.
Well, yeah. I'm not
It's a
saying
risk
it's
reward.
bad, but like if you're gonna play this card, you're gonna want to make sure that you're able to hit it consistently on turn 4. So that means you may be having to play Orzhov Guildgates in your deck, things like that.
Potentially, that could be the case for sure. But I mean, I will just have to kind of wait and see as to what people come to the conclusion of. But I think that you will have mana bases that can support it for sure. And even if like I say Esper is my immediate go-to. It's a control deck that wants this kind of effect in their deck, but there could just be a black-white control deck that just takes advantage of this. I think there's like nods against that because we don't really have a good like black planeswalker or even like mono white planeswalker.
You have Karn.
You do have Karn for
we
card
played
advantage.
Black-white. We played black-white at the end of the last format.
Yeah.
And, the Karn and the Eldest Reborn is a fair enough card advantage engine. We're adding a Wrath to that starts to feel pretty good.
That's true. And then you still have History Benalia. Like you still have a lot of these engine pieces
you
that
can still
exist.
just have that light blue splash for Teferi or for like Chromium as a finisher as well. So
Yeah.
like, there's options for sure to play that base shell. I know that blue is getting a lot of cool toys, a couple of pretty nifty draw spells that you'll make people want to go that direction. But I just want to talk flavor on this for a little bit because I don't know how many times in this podcast I've been excited about the concept of Teysa hiring Kaya to kill the Ghost Council. And literally, this is the card that tells us that happens. Like the flavor text, Teysa convened the meeting of the Obsidian. Kaya ended it. Amazing. Like I was just so very happy.
Meeting adjourned.
We saw BBD tweeted out today. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he was very sad that they. he's like, They literally like printed a card that showed the murder of my favorite card.
It's true.
Like, I'm very sorry. That's very sad, but I'm not sad. This is great.
So speaking of this, we have another story card that actually just got spoiled today. It's Ethereal Absolution. It's 4 generic black-white, and it's an enchantment. It says creatures you control get +1/+1. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. And has an activated ability of 2 black-white. Exile target creature card. Exile a target card from an opponent's graveyard. If it was a creature card, create a 1/1 black and white spirit token with flying. But the art definitely depicts like a whole bunch of ghosts leaving like an Orzhov Basilica, and I'm like, did they just let all the ghosts go? They opened the trap?
This is they shut the Ghostbusters down, and all the ghosts are just flying around New York.
I'm
right now.
but I just don't like to what end. I want to read that's why I want to read the book. To be perfectly
seriously,
honest, because like,
true.
why'd you do this?
A ghost Uber. That's why. That's what's gonna happen. Based on what I saw in the movie Ghostbusters, they just all become cab drivers. So. I think it's definitely pretty cool, and I'm excited as well for the book just because I see this. I know that for the show, Brian Keller loves the Orzhov, and saw this was like, what are they doing?
What's your plan here?
What are they doing
it's
in
not
my
my
guild?
Orzhov.
Yeah, not my,
It's like he's watching the Ravnican like stock market, and like you just see his own Orzhov just taking a nosedive. He's like, "What are you doing?"
Sell. Oh my gosh.
Oh boy! But any card that you want to talk about, Dave?
Yeah, I was going to talk about one, but I'll leave that one for you.
All
But
right.
I'll talk about Spawn of Mayhem.
Nice.
I think this card is sweet.
Yeah, it's very good.
This is a 2 black demon. It's a 4/4 and has a spectacle cost of 1 black. Has flying and trample. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, Spawn of Mayhem deals 1 damage to each player. And then if you have 10 or less life, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, so a 4 mana 4/4 flying trample that pings every turn is already, I'd say, borderline playable. I mean, maybe 10 years ago that would have been awesome, but that by today's standards, it's actually kind of like maybe. But with it, you potentially being able to get it out on turn 3, and then basically for as long as it's in play, you can play your other spectacle cards for the rest of the game. This card just seems absurd. Now,
Yeah.
it's definitely going to be contextualized to see like what the Rakdos decks look like. What kind of early drops are we looking at? That they're going to be able to turn on early spectacle. I think we'll have to wait and see if we get any more black like 1-drops.
Yeah, especially with it being double black, because we do already have a red 1-drop in Fanatical Firebrand.
Yeah.
That it really turns on all of the spectacle cards, which is nice. But I agree, this being black, like that mana base might be a little bit rough if your 1-drop is red, and what's your curve going to look like. So I agree with that.
It's for the best, really. I mean, if this was like a gold card and the spectacle was like 1 red-black, then it would just be completely absurd.
Yeah,
So-
and who knows? Maybe this doesn't necessarily just go into red black X decks. Maybe there is a home for it in other decks that play black. You never know.
You
I
could-
mean, good.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say like you could potentially play it in something like almost like a blue-black aggro. You take something from the mono blue tempo deck. Maybe play some of those.
Yeah, I
blue
would.
1-drops. I don't know.
I wouldn't mind playing this with like Simon Stormchaser. That
Yeah.
feels pretty good. So I don't disagree there.
Yeah.
Put a Curious Obsession on this trampling demon, this trampling boy.
He's fun. He's so curious.
I think mono black aggro is also something we could still take a look at. When you look at there's a 1-drop in this set, the skeleton that you can return.
Yeah.
And we still have things like Dreadshade and bad we have Cabal Stronghold as well. And mono black was a deck near the end of the last format. We're entering an era of good mana bases, but it's important to think about how sometimes just having that straight sometimes the Boros aggro deck's good, but sometimes playing 20 mountains is better. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe that's an option too.
I hadn't even thought about that really. I'm just trying to think of like all the possibilities. It's like, oh well, you could play 3 colors now, and maybe we should be going the other way.
Maybe we should go the other way. It's interesting. With Dominaria giving us a couple of cards instead, like the cycle of Tempest Djinn and Dreadshade and all that, it does sometimes pull you back. You start looking at what you can do, but you're like, oh, but there's like Goblin Chainwhirler still, and it's like, yeah, there definitely is. So I want to talk about one more card in the vein of the demon there. Sticking with Rakdos, I want to talk about Theater of Horrors. This is a generic red-black for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. During your turn, if an opponent lost life this turn, you may play out cards exiled with Theater of Horrors. That has an activated ability, 3 generic and a red. Theater of Horrors deals 1 damage to our opponent or planeswalker. So I want to advance this Blasting Cannons to be Outpost Siege.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Definitely not.
I want this to be Outpost Siege, and I know it's not.
It's close though,
but it feels
it's
closer.
It's definitely closer. Really, what you want it to be is Chandra Chandra Firebrand. I understand what you want.
I want it to be Chandra Pyromaster.
Pyromaster, yeah.
Baby, I miss you.
Yeah, that's the card that you want it to be.
But I think like this being only 3 mana is really interesting because it's the kind of card, and I don't know if it's a main deck card, but it's certainly the kind of card I could see wanting to sideboard in, and it just sits there, and then you have this secondary hand. We have Experimental Frenzy that kind of works like this as well, where your cards in hand are your actual hand. But I like this one a little bit better. As far I would say, because Experimental Frenzy is its own card, but I mean, from the sense of you can sit for a while, and then the turn you get to use it, you can kind of go off with it. And that the ability to have that activated, just deal 1 damage is kind of powerful when you get to the late stages of a game where you've been the aggressive deck. So I kind of like this card.
It's fun because they work well together because you can't cast card from your hand, but you're like, I can cast cards from here and here. I have 2 places, but not here.
Yeah, I don't know
where
if you do play them
traditionally-
together, but man, that would be hilarious if you did.
I mean,
My
like-
hand is worthless.
I'm just trying to get used to all these Rakdos cards that say deal the damage to target opponent or a target player or planeswalker.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, but I guess
That's just how it works.
it's
now.
just it's just taking some getting used to. I definitely misread this card the first time I read it. I thought you could only play the card that was exiled that turn. So
No,
you could
it's
just
just-
build this up for like a couple
it's
turns.
forever.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
I also like the idea that so say you do have a bunch of cards sitting there and like someone tries to bring down a Teferi to end the party, you can like parting shot it, or it's like, all right, Teferi, but you're going 2.
I'm taking you with me.
This is a dance.
Hope you enjoyed your night at the theater.
So I think it's cool. There's definitely some cards in this. I don't know how it's going to compare to guilds overall yet, except we're still getting a few cards, and there's definitely some. I think in the Mythic slot there is some clunkers in this set. Things like the Gruul Worm and the weird octopus come to mind, but
I just think the Gruul Worm is good. But
I
it just feels weird as a mythic.
I mean, it probably is good, but I think like the last time we got a big Mythic Worm in Ravnica, we got like Armada Worm, so it's just like,
So I think the Ravager Worm is what you're talking about. I'll just read it. It's 3 generic, red, green, so 6 mana for a 4/5 with Riot. And it says when this enters the battlefield, choose up to 1. Ravager Worm fights a creature you don't control, or a target creature you don't control, or it destroy target non-basic land with an activated ability.
No,
a non-mana
it's actually target land with
target land with a non-mana ability, basically.
Yeah, so if you gave a basic land a non-mana ability, like via Underworld Connections, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah,
then you
yeah.
can destroy it.
So I do think that this card is. There was an article today on, I believe, Channel Fireball, written by Joel Larson, and he brought up this card as being a card that may have been somewhat designed with Best of One in mind, where it is a broad card that does a lot of things that you can just have in your deck, and you don't feel bad about it. He also mentioned that in Bedevil as being another card that's just good and broad, that kind of suits a Best of One metagame.
Interesting.
And I don't disagree. Like I think this is definitely better in a best of one format rather than a sideboard format. But when you look at some of what Gruul is trying to do, I think this card's right where you probably want to be with a lot of stuff. Even if it's just like a one
It
of.
just feels
but
like a weird mythic. That's all.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
If it definitely feels more like a rare, but again,
Now, granted, if this is a rare, it would show up probably a lot in limited, and that would be
Yeah.
upsetting, I suppose. But
yeah, that would be tilting. But I mean, like you still have the 4/4 that comes in and fights a guy, and that's 6 mana as well. So and that's uncommon in guilds of Ravnica Draft.
it's true.
Yeah, but this one can have haste.
It
also-
can.
There's also, I mean, as we've gone through the spoilers, there's more cards that grant riot to creatures,
Yes.
and as we found out, creature can have multiple
Multiple instances of riot. It can be a Paramore card. It can be a riot.
Yep.
Yep. But and like that's
Was
that's awesome.
Was that your intention to make that joke, or
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, it's definitely intentional. And I'm not the first one to make that joke. Thank you, Cedric Phillips. That's super interesting to have both. Like when you can, why not both? Meme the riot creatures. They're all pretty good. When it gives it +1/+1 and haste. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things. I don't feel like we have a lot of creature cards with riot. Am I mistaken in that? We have we
have the 2/2 for 2.
Yeah, we have the goblin.
Pretty good.
We have the Spellbreaker.
Yeah.
We have the worm.
There's the green 4-mana 2/2 that when it attacks, you can give something else.
Oh yeah.
The Beastmaster.
Yeah. And there's the common one, the one that it enters the battlefield and you can pump it. That's what it is. It has trample and you can pump it.
Right.
I saw the non-promo art for the Rakdos Firewheeler. Man, that art's good too.
Yeah, nice.
Card's great. That's what I want. That's what's still missing that we haven't got.
is
the Gruul red? I feel like that's what's going to sell me on
the pig. It's coming.
Yeah. That's what's going to sell me on Gruul as a playable. I guess not many of those has actually been constructed playable, but maybe that one will be because Gruul's so creature heavy, like creature focused. So that's what I'm hoping. But we'll have to wait and see.
I think we should guess on what it is, and then we'll find out.
I really feel it has to have riot. Right? It just has to.
It doesn't have to.
I don't think any of the other ones
have the keyword.
I know, but I feel like your keyword is creature focused. Like, come on.
Well, the Boros one has mentor.
Yeah, it has
mentor. There you go. Yeah, so green, red. I think it's.
It's got to be like a 4/4 at least, right?
It could be a 4/4. It could be a 5/3.
I think
5/3 with riot.
Yeah,
it could be that. I can see that. I gotta reevaluate with riot, because like I just wanted to be like a big dumb idiot. Like I just wanted to be like a 5/5 of riot.
Dave, what if it's this? What if it's red, green, a 2/2 with riot and double strike?
I feel like if they did that, it would be like red white, right?
I mean,
Not
maybe
necessarily green red.
So I guess I don't know what makes that green. I guess maybe that's it. I don't know. I don't know if you saw the debate over the blue white, the white blue 4/3 fly with vigilance, and people being like, shouldn't this cast black green?
That's a throwback.
Yeah, that's a good one. But I don't know.
What if it's just a creature with double riot?
I don't think they're gonna put that on there, but that would be hilarious. Riot 2.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna go that far, but I that's what I want. I just want to see like what that looks like and then go from there, because that mystery's still in my mind, and I just have a feeling that it out of all of them, it might be the one that could break into constructed playability, just because if you could make like a pushed creature for the creature guild, like wouldn't you?
You'd think so, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
All right, I think we should save everything else for the actual Palooza, which will be just around the corner. So before we jump into competitive, do want to give a shout out, of course, to our lovely sponsor, Comic Town. You can pre-register for the Ravnica pre-releases that are going to be happening here. We just said next week.
Yeah.
So definitely, they're going to have 6 events you can sign up for. So check out more information on those events by visiting Comic Con Gaming Center on Facebook. All right, competitive. Let's talk about the GP first. It was won by Eli Cassis with Is It Phoenix in the most spectacularly
one in quotations. Yeah.
He won.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not going to take that away from the man. He won. He won due to concession.
He did technically win. Yes.
Due to his opponent, I'll pull up
Hunter Cochran.
Hunter Cochran had to concede the finals match in order to catch a flight. Which, hey, that's real life stuff. Like sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And so, congrats to Eli Cassis in winning. Hunter Cochran was on KCI, and he was one of 4 players in the top 8 to be on KCI. And I think that is probably one of the bigger takeaways to look at this tournament and kind of get that idea. And obviously, there are a lot of people that are playing KCI, like Sam Black, like Matt Nass, that makes sense. Like we know Matt Nass is like a KCI master. Sam Black is in the same vein of playing, sort of complicated combo decks and being someone who could be successful with them. I don't necessarily know Hunter Cochran's background or Steve Haker. I don't know their backgrounds necessarily, but clearly people that have found success with the deck. But that's a lot. That is definitely a lot of KCI to see, and I've seen multiple different takes about this deck and its success that we've seen. I know that Mike, you shared with us in our show chat a take for like Seth Manfield that was like, no, don't ban this. It's just.
Did you read show notes?
Is that already in there?
Yeah, it's at the end of the competitive
Man, even
stuff.
I saw that.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get that far.
No, I know, I could tell.
All right, well, we'll get back to
You're
that.
blowing it, bud.
I'm sorry that great minds think alike.
Yep.
Anyway, talk about some of the other decks then. Here in the type of Alex Olson playing Blue-White Control. We have Marshall Jankowski playing Titan Shift. Garth Dracolis.
Wait a second. Hold on now.
Playing Hard Scales Affinity, and then that's the other decks, right? Correct.
Yes.
All right. So, anything that we want to talk about here in GP Oakland, as far as decks, as far as what I didn't watch any of it. I hate to say so.
I watched very little of it. I just want to point out, just outside of top 8, you have 3 burn decks.
Burn.
No, I mean, I actually do think burn is quite good in the format right now. So let's not gloss over the fact that there was 3 burn decks in the top 16 as well.
Yeah, it makes sense. Again, we're looking for hate for KCI, and Eidolon of the Great Revel is certainly hate for it.
Very much so.
We should mention Elikasis's is it Phoenix list is interesting for has a sort of unique card in the main deck. We actually played against this version in the team open, Dave, when we played against Chris Anderson's team. And Elliot, our middle seat, played against him playing Is It Phoenix, who had Pyromancer Ascension, and he lost to many lightning bolts game 1.
Yeah.
He did win that match though, so it's a good job of that one. But definitely game 1, I looked over and I was like, oh, he's playing Storm, and then I saw Thing in the Ice, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, so Pyromancer Ascension is an interesting thing here with this deck. I have said before that the deck didn't appeal to me like other versions of Phoenix just because of how threat light it is. Dave found another answer to that, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I think it's kind of interesting here. In Standard, we've seen people playing the Saga, the Mirari one, and the Mirari Conjecture.
Yeah.
Which really, this is doing a similar thing to that. Once you get this active, which it's not too hard to do in this deck, because honestly, you're playing a bunch of generic cantrips, just like you are in Storm. It does let you do things like have a lot of bolts, but it also lets you draw to your things a lot faster, which is interesting. The fact that it doesn't actually help flip your Thing in the Ice any faster is kind of awkward, but.
You don't really need it to.
No, but then I question do you really need it? You know what I mean? That's the thing. But I think it's interesting for sure. Watching it play out when it was active, it was incredibly powerful. So,
I will say this. I mean, I've played a lot of Is It Phoenix basically since Guilds of Ravnica came out, since Arclight Phoenix was a card.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried a bunch of different versions, but basically I've played Is It Phoenix, and the decks that are able to remove your creatures are definitely the toughest matchups.
Right.
Like Grixis Death Shadow has been difficult. They have Fatal Push to kill your things.
Everything.
Right. And as long as they can handle your Phoenix draws, then you're kind of in trouble. So this does give you a little bit of a different angle where you're not going to rely on your creatures to kill, and then you can kind of just go off like you are a Storm deck. Like if you cast a Manamorphose with Pyromancer Ascension, you're kind of doing it. So
yeah, that makes sense. So I think definitely a sort of cool way to take a look at it. Also, Dave and I were trying to come up with ways to one of our last loss that put us out of day 2 in round 8 involved Dave desperately digging for an answer to a Thing in the Ice in the mirror, and so we were brainstorming what could he play that would kill a flip Thing in the Ice, and I was throwing weird answers. I'm like, I don't like Pongify. Let's make a monkey token. What's the one? I was trying to remember the one from Fate Reforged where you got to manifest by exiling a creature. And Cassis was way ahead of us on this one, and definitely went back to an old favorite, Threads of Disloyalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, the forgotten. Yeah, I think a lot of people switched over to the new one,
Entrancing Melody.
Entrancing Melody. Yeah, I've played that in Modern before, but to take a thing in the ice costs 4, and this one only costs 3.
Right.
So
I think it's kind of interesting. I don't, that seems like a fair answer. If instead of just like getting rid of it, taking it seems like a good way to win a game. So
gives you a nice out to Death Shadow too, which is kind of a problem sometimes.
that's
'Cause
true.
You just like don't really have a good answer to it.
Yeah, I mean, you take you at least half their threats, which is nice. So
Yeah, if they get a Gurmag Gangler, kind of out of luck, but
so yeah, I like that, and interesting to see him be able to navigate a pretty hateful top 8, to be quite honest. The matchup for Is It Phoenix versus KCI isn't something that I would want to play many times. So it's pretty impressive. Any of the decks you want to mention here in the top 16? Shout out to Living End for top 16ing.
there's always like one.
It
There's
just, I
always
just
one
like
kicking
you just
around.
don't, you don't see it for a while, and you're like, oh yeah, Living End. So
Yeah, you living in.
I will say Living End is a deck that stands to possibly gain, or at least look at a new way to go off with a card that's being printed in Ravnica Allegiance, which is the red X burn spell.
Yeah,
Right.
and you get to play a card with CMC equal to X, right?
X or less, right?
Yeah,
but
probably.
you can't play that card in that deck because then, like, if you cascade and hit that, then it doesn't do anything.
What? Oh yeah, you're right. That's
So
right.
you have
yeah,
to basically
never mind,
change the
never
whole
mind.
deck.
You're right. You can't. But it does let you play those free spells in an interesting fashion.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but you're right. Never mind. You can't play that. I forgot about cascading. Whoops.
No, I mean it may have some applications in other decks that are playing the like no mana cost, Ancestral Vision, whatever.
Yeah.
Man, I would like to burn something for a few damage and then and then cast Ancestral. That'd be nice. Anyways,
That's not bad.
no, that's not bad at all. So yeah, a lot of Is It Phoenix, a lot of KCI. Congrats to Blue Eye Control for somehow being in the top 8.
I mean, it does have a good KCI matchup, so
It has
that.
many rest in pieces, which is half the battle. So,
That's very true.
and I do mean that it's only half the battle. You're only halfway there. So, all right, cool. Well, let's move to the Open then.
Heck yeah.
So I was there.
You guys were there. I mean, I was there for like a little bit. I didn't play though. I picked up cards for the classic that I also didn't play. So
That's good.
yeah,
Can I get this back, by the way?
yeah,
Okay, cool. So I'll make sure.
yeah. They're just in my bag. They didn't go anywhere.
So yeah, I played with the team with myself, Dave, and so again for the show, Elliot. Elliot played Grixis Death Shadow after we prodded him a little bit to get him off of KCI.
So he wanted to play KCI, which is fine. I mean, it's obviously a very good deck, but it does take a lot of practice, and he wasn't really able to practice all that much with it. So we kind of gently nudged him towards playing Grixis Death Shadow, which is I think also a very good deck in the format right now.
And he plays it well.
And he's had he's had a lot of experience with it and plays it well, and he did fine playing it. So.
I played Mono Red Phoenix to no surprise. I talked it up a lot the last episode, and there's no way I wasn't going to play it. That's the deck I had infinite reps with. So, and Dave, you played,
and then I played Is It Phoenix, which is a deck I've had a lot of reps with.
yeah,
Now,
kinda.
I had a little bit of spice. So
You had a lot of spice, comparatively speaking. You had so much spice that your deck was classified as something else when it was published.
They changed it back.
They changed
did
it back.
they?
They
Yeah.
decided
Oh.
it didn't have enough spice. It had a little bit of spice. All right, so it took a little bit of a different angle. So the night before the tournament, if any of you are familiar with Holy Diva, who streams on Twitch,
Holy
she
Diva.
pretty much exclusively streams Modern, and she loves to play Izzet decks, specifically Thing in the Ice, Kiln Fiend brews. So she posted a list that she went 4-1 with in a league. And it was basically just the Is It Phoenix deck with basically you take out the Thought Scours and a couple of and like a Swift Spear to play some Kiln Fiends, a couple of Salt Strobes, and an Artful Dodge.
Also, some number of mutagenic growths.
And yeah, you're basically swapping out the slot that would usually be Gut Shot for mutagenic growth, which helps you to kind of pump up a creature to double strike in one shot, but it also has an important role of protecting your thing in the ice.
Specifically
So-
from lava axe, like that.
Yeah.
Lightning axe. I mean, not lava
Yeah, it
axe.
could break from lightning axe dismember.
Wait a second.
If they try to go for flame slash, something like that,
Right.
that's starting to pick up a little bit. So
Yeah, Ellie Cassis had 2 copies of Flame Slash in his main deck. So
yep. Also protects your kiln fiends from lightning bolt, which can be pretty important. So if you're deciding to go for it, you're like, well, if I have mutagenic, I'm protected from lightning bolt, so they're going to have to have another removal spell. So, I think it changes the deck a little bit because it gives you this very fast. I can't even tell you how many turn 3 kills I had. Like for real, I probably at least 8 on the weekend, maybe more than that. I played against Dredge twice in the open and beat it twice. And I took a total of 12 turns in those 4 games that I played. So 4 turn 3 kills against Dredge because they can't really.
no,
Their only
don't
interaction
interact.
really is if they're able to flip a conflagrate. So
Yeah, they don't interact in that way very much, and Assault Strobe's rather good against them. So half
Yeah.
their creatures can't block.
yeah, so I mean, all it takes is a turn 2 Kiln Fiend, and then you just cast 3 spells the next turn. One of them being Assault Strobe. That's 20 right there.
The math is easy.
Yeah. You could also do it with if you play a turn 2 thing in the ice, and you're able to go like Metamorphose, Bolt You, Mutagenic Growth, Assault Strobe, something like that. That's a kill.
Yep.
So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I was able to, personally, I tend to have more success playing a little bit like decks that are a little off the beaten path. Like when I play stock lists, I do okay usually, but I feel like I'm not really getting much of an edge. And I play something like this. It's like there were a lot of matches where game 1 it just looked like I was playing a regular Is It Phoenix deck. Then game 2 I'd be like turn 2 Kiln Fiend. I'd be like, oh.
Like, wait, what?
Wasn't expecting that, and then they died. I've had, I had a KCI opponent that was just like, I killed him on turn 3 in game 1. He sideboarded, and then I killed him in a different way in game 2, and he was just like, I have no idea how to sideboard against this deck. I was like, honestly, I don't know what you should do either. Like, I know what I'm doing, but
So we played the team of Dan Jessup, Frank Scarron, and who was their middle seat? I can't remember his name. Was it Ingram? Was Evan
Ingram,
Ingram?
yeah.
Pete Ingram.
That was a team that knocked us out of contention for day 2. In game 2 against Dave, Frank Scarron definitely was very dead to a Kiln Fiend, and Surgical extracted him just so he could look at his deck.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's
like,
absolutely the right
It's-
play.
but it was just like, well, I just need to see this. I just need to take a
Yeah.
look at this right now.
Yeah,
I need to look at your deck and not be disqualified for it. So here we go.
Which is pretty funny because he missed land drops and you just blew him out with a Kiln Fiend, right?
yeah. So I was on the play. I played a turn 2 Kiln Fiend. He got stuck on one land, and I kind of got scared for a second when he went for the surgical because I was just like, I had lightning bolt covered because I had a mutagenic growth,
Right.
But if he had like lightning axe, and I was like, maybe he just wants to see my hand so he knows what removal spell to play.
Right.
So I got a little nervous, and then like he started, talking to Peter, and he's just like, "Yeah, I just got to see his deck." I was like, "Yeah."
Yes. Oh, that's pretty good.
But yeah, I honestly think if you look at Ili Cassis's list is kind of going in the opposite way. He's playing Crackling Drakes in the main. It's kind of can go a little bit more of a control route.
Mm-hmm.
This version is more like I'm trying to kill you as fast as
Right.
possible. So you still have Swiss Spears in the main deck as well. The Crackling Drakes are in the sideboard. I definitely like that, and especially in Modern. I mean, we've said this a million times. Like Modern's a format where it's best to be proactive, and you can win. For example, I played against Amulet Titan, which I really don't have any kind of specific hate for. You know what I mean? Like I can bring in like Ceremonious Rejection to try to counter their amulets if I'm on the play, but that's not even that great because then I have to hold up mana. But in any case, if you're just fast, sometimes it doesn't matter. You can just win. So that's kind of what I was going for there, and I think really served me well on the weekend. So
I mean, you know that the proponent I've been of the mono red version, and that's one of the reasons I like it is because it does have the chance to just be blisteringly fast, and sometimes you have to just do that. Sometimes you have to just go, okay, this is a race, and it's nice to have the access to that game plan. I agree with that. If you want to see Dave's actual list, we'll get to this. He played in the Classic on Sunday and took 14th.
Yep. Yeah,
So
top 16.
So yeah, his place is, you can go take a look at that deck and copy that down. And were you playing the exact list that she had been playing?
So the main deck was basically the same. The mana base is like I played like one less fetch and one more shockland. But the main deck is basically exactly what she had posted. Sideboard is a little bit different. She had Blood Moons in the board, which I did play in the open. Didn't really like them, so I swapped those out for like an extra Ceremonious Rejection and like a Flame Slash because I wanted more spot removal.
Makes sense.
So, but yeah, it's funny. I messaged her on Twitter. I was like, "Hey, thanks for posting the list." And we kind of had a little bit of a conversation there, but so it was cool. So I can't really take credit for the idea. I definitely lifted that from her, but it worked well, and I think it's definitely a viable way to go with Is It Phoenix if you're looking for a little bit of a different angle there.
Yeah, this especially people who play a lot of Pauper. I'm assuming that idea would appeal to them a little bit. So, and I'm sure you can go back and watch the replays of her stream. I don't know if she does YouTube uploads or not, but she might. You can go take a look at that too. So, overall, we went 6-3 on the day. We had a couple really frustrating rounds near the end of the day. I actually started 0-2, which I was like, what the heck? But
hey, but our team was 2-0.
Yeah,
so
team put me on their back, and that was sweet. And I finished tournament 6-3. It's funny as we were talking about seeding and like where to put people. And like Elliot was like, well, I think you should be in the middle to me. And I'm like, well, I definitely shouldn't be in the middle. Every single one of my matches will be done first. And with the exception of Dave versus Dredge, every single one of my matches was done first. What's really funny is we played against Team Dredge, which there was a pair of brothers and a friend of theirs. They're nice guys. But Team Dredge, Dave got that turn 3 kill, and I missed it because of a creeping chill. So we almost literally served up turn 3 kills to our opponents in game 1. My opponent hit a creeping chill, so I had him at 3 after turn 3, and I was like, and Dave's like, oh, I got him 3 turns. I was like, no, I was so close.
The funny thing about it too is like I kind of has like asked permission to play the deck. I was like, guys, look at this deck. I gotta play this, and I was definitely expecting you guys to be like, nah, just play, stock list. But hey, you and Elliot were both like, yeah, go for it. This is awesome.
No,
I
think
right.
like I think honestly talking about the construction of a team event, and Morgan and I have gone through this before, and a lot of the team events that Morgan and I have played, especially the limited ones, we've both gone. My wife wants to play. We've gone in knowing it was going to be fairly casual. Mm-hmm. But when we've assessed constructed ones, though, you still have to play what you know to play. Like when we've divvied up formats before and tried to go that route. The same was true here. Elliot flat out told us that he felt pressure to play the best deck because of the team event, and we were like, well, play something you're going to do well with. Dave, I have played enough Magic turns with you over the years to know that you are going to make midnight changes to whatever deck you're going to play.
Well,
sorry,
excuse me.
Whoa.
Hey, that'd be shaving a few cards.
Just preening the sideboard just right.
Yeah, just right. It just is, you know what I mean? And I'm probably going to play at least 1 or 2 cards that are going to make you go, right? But then when
I didn't question the 2 Eidolons in your sideboard. I was like, that's a weird number, but you know what?
I get
You've been playing it. That's
I appreciate it. Hey, I know you questioned Flame Jab before, and then you watched me butcher some poor person with cast Flame Jab so many times. Oh my gosh, it was the Green Affinity deck, and it was just like I'm gonna keep Flame Jabbing all of these 1/1s, all of them. But no, I get that. So when you posted that, I was like, it's close enough to what he knows how to play. I'm not going to fight him on it.
Yeah, no, I definitely would not have, like, in a team event, I would not switch to, like, a totally new deck. This is basically, the same shell of the deck that I was playing with, a little bit of spice to it. I honestly wasn't sure how it was going to play out, but I thought, like, in theory, the idea was sound.
Yeah,
like, it made a lot of sense.
No, it made sense. I think what you said, you went 7-2 in your matches played.
So in the open, I was 5-2. And I had 2 unfinished matches.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about the classic.
Yeah, that's fair.
But, yeah, I mean, like I had a lot of fun in the open. I mean,
Yeah,
like I said,
it was a blast.
yeah. So we had we ended up with 3 losses, and like there was only one match that we really got ranched. Like we just got crushed. But like the other ones like came down to like that third game type thing. And
Yeah,
it
they
was
were
really
stressful.
Close, so.
Oh my gosh. We watched Elliot navigate around like beautifully, like when he was our last match. Dave unfortunately was on the receiving end of some of our 2 of our frustrating losses. Now what I will say is, like, if you go back and look at our tournament, we played a really difficult tournament. When you look at how people finished, we played against, I want to say, five or six total teams that day 2'd. We played against 2 teams that top 8'd. Like it was. We really had to battle the hard way through it. So
Yeah,
I wasn't upset with our 6-3. Like, I wanted a day 2. I wanted us to get one more, but we had a match against the team of Scott Bass, Isaac Vermillion, and Joe Mann, who are local players that we know, and I managed to pick up my match against Amulet Titan. Elliot played against Affinity, and in a heartbreaker on a mold of 4. The turn that he would have won to his handless Affinity opponent, his opponent's like, well, I guess I have to draw Galvanic Blast here, and blind flip the blast off the top. And then Dave lost a really frustrating match against Humans. We're like, we sat there, he made all the right decisions, but the cards just did not line up.
Yeah, and that's how it goes.
So many Reflector Mages. Oh my god,
Reflector
there's so many
Mage
Reflector
is so
Mages.
good. It's really good against Thing in the Ice.
And then we, the matchup against the team of Jessup, Ingram, and Scarin. I managed to beat Jessup on Banned Spirits, but I should, because that's a good matchup for me. Elliot had some pretty rough draws against Ingram's Is It Phoenix deck. Oh my gosh, I couldn't say words there. And then again, it came down to game 3 for Dave, and it was, we have to find an answer for this Thing in the Ice now.
Yeah, I literally cast like 4 cantrips.
You got so many looks
like
at a card,
or...
couldn't get it, and that was pretty much it, unfortunately. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it was tough, but it was a lot of fun. The matches we played were fun. The decisions we talked about together, like, everyone had good input on each other's matches. Like, it was good. I would definitely run that team back too. So,
yeah,
not that I didn't miss being on your team, Morgan. I really did.
It's fine. It's fine. I understand.
So,
I get where I am at the game with the game and everything like that. It's fine. I understand. Next time, maybe I want in.
okay, fair enough.
Maybe I want
fair
in.
enough.
I definitely felt like at the end of the day, I was just like, man, like I just felt like we were so close.
Right.
I was like, man, like, can we just like keep playing? Can we just run it back? Can we just play another one tomorrow? Let's go.
Yeah, and every day too we go.
And I gotta say, and I kind of was saying this all day, like on Saturday. I was like, I really enjoyed the non-unified format.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think like a lot of teams that we kind of were chatting with were just kind of like, it's just nice to be able to play like whatever deck whatever you want to play, or like if you want to team up and be like, hey, let's do Team Dredge or Team Tron, or we saw Team Jeskai Ascendancy combo.
I took a video of it. It was one side of the table all making lots and lots of furious hand motions, the other side of the table doing nothing, and the judge assigned to watch their match is checking his watch. He's yawning. He's dead inside. So that was hilarious.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. And they don't have any more scheduled, I don't think, at least for the first half of the SCG tour year. But I hope that they have another one in the second half.
They said it was their largest open.
Yeah,
so
I'd be willing to travel for one of these. So.
I feel like they will see that and understand that, which is nice. Yes, to piggyback on that, the non-unified format. We've done team constructed. Morgan and I a couple times now, which I've enjoyed. But
Yeah.
we haven't done unified constructed, but it's never appealed to us. Like, we've had the chance. We could have gone to a couple GPs. Like, there was the one in was it Toronto that we could have gone up to, and like it's just tough because we talked about how you get pegged into a deck. Like, okay, you have to play this, you have to play this, and you have to play this. But I think like it felt so nice playing non-unified because we all got to play decks that we were comfortable with, but we also know each other as players. So like it made helping out a lot easier, which was nice. We played against a couple teams who like quite literally when like one person would be like, oh, I need help with this. The other person was like, just like stop talking to me for a minute. Right. Where like, they were like, and it was just like, okay. And I get it. Cause like you're thinking, but it never felt like any sort of tension there. It was just kind of like, we all knew what we were doing and it's nice. It was a nice tournament.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I guess we should talk about other decks for a second that did well in it.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you can for these team events, but it does seem like Amulet Titan was very popular. I mean, that helps because there was literally a team that was all Amulet Titan.
Wait, Team Titans?
Team Titans, correct. Or Amulet, as they were calling themselves.
Nope.
No. I mean, that's fine. I'm just reporting the news. You don't have to agree with it.
Gosh, that was their first match they showed in coverage for Top 8. I know they let people vote for that, but it was 3 Titans versus 2 Dredge and a Humans. And I was like, who voted for this? Like,
I mean, people just want to see like people play Amulet Titan.
people just want to see people like play with themselves on
Correct.
TV. Like, I don't understand.
I don't know. People like are gluttons for punishment. But it is like, when you see the team of Edgar Margalez, Matthew Dilks, and Daryl.
Daryl Ayers.
Thank you. My brain shut down on the poor man's name.
Ayers.
Which are like, I mean, Edgar most certainly is probably the best Amulet
Yes.
Titan player that exists, and you're probably going to be watching his match. So, like, people want to see a master.
No,
work.
and that's fair. I didn't think about that. They do want to see master like manipulators. That makes a lot of sense. I don't know. It just was awful to watch. Like, it was just like, oh, like literally in every game, it's like, oh, did you cast Primeval Titan? Oh, the Dredge player died. That's weird.
I think like when you look at it, there is a lot of what you would expect. You see Bait Spirits, you see Ironworks, you see Amulet Titan, you see Is It Phoenix. Some of the ones that do stand out are there is a Hollow One deck here that won, piloted by Ethan Gaiske. Which is not a deck that we've seen a whole lot of as of recent. It's been either shifted to like Hollow One with like Phoenix, not Flamewake Phoenix,
Yeah, Arclight.
Arclight Phoenix, or it's just been completely supplanted by Mono Red Phoenix or Is It Phoenix, where you just don't see like that deck anymore. So it was kind of interesting to see it show up here, and I think there were a few other people that were shown on coverage that were also playing Hollow One. So I feel like that's kind of interesting to see a deck you don't think about win.
Right.
Yeah. And then the other one that I see here in the top 8 is Colorless Eldrazi.
Yeah, a shout out to Nick Montequila, John Benson, and Nick Cowden. These are Northeast Ohio players.
Yeah.
Benson's notable for playing
Ad nauseum.
Ad nauseum.
Yes,
and he switched to Ironworks here. But if you don't know Nick Montequila, he won a couple PTQs. He early in Modern he won one of the huge Columbus PTQs playing the original version of the Summoning Trap deck. So he likes to cast his Eldrazi even before the Eldrazi took this form. So I really enjoyed the fact that so if you ever see Nick on coverage, the first thing you'll notice is that the guy works out a lot. So he likes to like flex into the coverage, but I also really enjoyed that Emma Handy kind of hated the deck. Like she has said it multiple times. She's like, "No, I hate this deck. I just hate it." And I was like, "I appreciate that." It's like someone on coverage just being like, "I don't know, I don't like anything it does, and I hate it."
I guess like we can kind of talk about that, right? I know SCG rolled out some new coverage teams.
Yeah, so it was.
I didn't watch a lot of coverage because I was playing, but yeah.
It was good. I have to say that there was definitely like I think it was Emma Handy and Ryan Overturf were for the first or was it?
I think it was Ryan
or was it Matt
and Todd Anderson.
Yeah, then it was Matthias Hunt and Emma Handy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But there was a lot of good like chemistry between both the teams from when I watched them. There are a lot of good like laugh out loud moments and stuff like that. Like they did a good job of like conveying what was going on with the game and still being like as charismatic as you would want them to be perfectly honest. And I think we kind of got a little bit like we have Cedric and Patrick Sullivan, which are just like the best of the best, it feels like. So we have them, and then we had the B team, and then we kind of got used to those just kind of being who was doing coverage. So it's nice to really mix it up and mix and match different personalities together, and it still have a good flow with everything. So, but it was very very enjoyable for what I did watch of it. So.
I know they rolled out. They have new, I guess, overlays for
and
all that stuff.
I think it was a little rough. They were still having some technical difficulties with that, but that comes that's just a part of growing and introducing new things is running into issues and working through it.
Sure. Um, I don't, as far as I do want to point out because we're going to come back and talk about this. Many teams had an Ironworks deck. So, but they actually printed. I know this. I gave the top 8 list here, but if you go to the actual SCG site, if you're looking at lists, they printed all the day 2 lists from all the teams because only 20. There was like 27 teams that day 2'd because there was a 20 pointer or something like that that like brought. Or no, 21 points went to that number. So it was sad. You had to be X2. We were hoping I could make the cut. We had the best breakers of all the 18 pointers. Tears, so that's fine. But yeah, again, a lot of like localish teams also did pretty well. And we played against a lot of them actually, so it's pretty impressive. You want to move into the classics?
Yeah, so we'll talk about the standard classic here real quick because we're heading into the end of the standard as we know it.
Sun's getting real low there.
Sun's getting real low. It was won by Boris Agro, piloted by Cooper Johnson, defeating Golgari Midrange, piloted by Paul Mueller. So, but we definitely don't see much of a really like new decks or anything like that coming out. The thing that sticks out the most is there is a Naya mid-range list piloted by Michael Givens, who's a local player, and is definitely a different take of a deck. So if you are looking for something that's a little bit off the wall, that's not just what everyone else is playing, definitely take a look at this. And who knows, maybe this is a place where you start brewing with the introduction of Gruul and fixing that mana base and maybe adding some new cards. You never know.
Yeah, I like his use of this is like a militia bugler deck. So
yes,
bugler can get a lot of cool cards. You have all of the explore cards in here. You have Wildgrowth Walker, Merfolk Branchwalker, Jadelight Ranger, all of which can be hit off the bugler, which is pretty cool. But then you have things like Direfleet Daredevil, and Aurelia also can be hit off the bugler.
Tristani.
And like and Tristani too, like that. That's the spice. So I kind of like the build there. Also has some Carnage Tyrants, and then plays Johnny Adversary Tyrants and Vivian Reed, which is kind of interesting when you look at how this deck sort of sets up. Like I wouldn't actually look at this and think this isn't a Johnny deck, but I'm assuming it actually probably functions pretty powerfully here.
I do have to say that I don't think we've ever noted that a Johnny Adversary Tyrants and Direfleet Daredevil is probably a really good interaction.
Yeah, it is.
It's nice to bring that back for free and just like have all the mana to cast the spell you're taking.
A Johnny becomes a flipped Jace Vryn's Prodigy.
Yeah. Like that's fine. That seems okay. So
for their graveyard, I get that, but like
still like that is like having played that card in Humans where you can play it off an Aether Vial. Like that is when you can do that. Obviously, it makes it very, very, very good. So this is sort of a similar effect that you're having. So I get it. I understand.
I was slightly distracted there thinking about playing Domri into Carnage Tyrant.
That's obviously very good.
I'm sure that's going to be a thing.
Yes, 100%.
Oh man.
Oh no.
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of.
It's a riot.
Big, hasty, hexproof boys. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But nothing really too explosive here coming from the standard classic. But that standard's going to be a little bit shifted here in the near future. All right, Dave. Modern Classic time. So you played in it. You top 16. You got 14th place.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about your overall experience with the sort of Modern Classic. We won't dwell too much on it, but
I just had a lot of fun playing the deck. I mean, I ran back basically the same list that I played in the Open. Felt good, so decided to stick with it. So went 7-2. One of my first loss was to Grixis Death Shadow. I believe is to someone who ended up top 8ing. Was
Nathaniel Monsees.
Yes.
Okay.
And he just completely destroyed me. Like it was not close. And Grixis Shadows is honestly a matchup that I don't want to see with Izzet Phoenix. He just had it all. He just had
just everything.
He had the fatal push for the thing in the ice. He had the Death Shadows that I couldn't kill, and he had the stubborn denial one. I tried to burn him out. So it's just it's just not even close. And then Burn is the other deck that I really don't want to see with Izzet Phoenix. I don't know how this version does, the Kiln Fiend version, because I didn't play against Burn the whole weekend, which is kind of weird to me. I was waiting for it.
It was all over the place too. So.
I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. It never happened, so got kind of lucky there. But What did I lose to? Let's see. I beat Jeskai twice. Beat Ironworks. Beat Amulet Titan. Beat Green White. Vizier combo. Beat Norin the Weary. Soul Sisters. That was in round 1. That was pretty wild. What did I lose to? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It was a lot of turn 3 kills. There was a lot of people reading Assault Strobe when I cast it. Had some fun interactions with Artful Dodge. People didn't know what that one did either. You're like, oh, what does that do? I'm like, oh yeah, you did.
The old brain puppy. Every time I look at the art of that card, it's like, what is this thing?
Why do you exist? Why are you on Innistrad? You look like a Civic thing.
It's true. Oh my gosh, it was Shark the Crab or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. The Civic, they not to get derailed here, but we gotta talk about the things they're doing over there. It's not good. It's not.
It ain't right.
It ain't right.
It's not at all.
We had a long discussion in the show chat about how Ian Malcolm would either his head would explode entering Civic territory or just do a complete 180 and just get some crab arms.
He's like, well, actually.
Well, I didn't know this could be an option, but yes. But, it's bad.
But, yeah, Modern Classic was fun.
Good.
I was watching a match that was going on. It was Humans versus Burn. I'm not sure who the players were, but the Humans deck had triple Auriok Champion in play.
Ugh.
And the Burn deck won.
Okay.
Whoa.
Not quite sure how that happened. There was a lot of bricks on the side of Humans.
I would have to imagine it would probably involved a lot of non-creature spells being cast.
Yes, a lot of lands.
Yeah, it's good. Core Firewalker, it ain't though. So
no, right. Core Firewalker is unfortunately non-human, so not a whole lot of synergy, but it is better than the Auriok Champion. In that particular instance.
There you go. Can we take a look at the Pyromancer list that won?
Yeah, Andrew Van Doylen, Mardu Pyromancer. Yeah. Again, this is another list that kind of fell out of favor.
Yeah, I when I saw what won, I was like very shocked. Yeah, I don't think this is a deck anymore, but okay.
There's a couple of things I thought were interesting about his list. He has main deck Goblin Rival Master, which is cool. Main deck Chandra Torch Defiance, which I like. He's got a copy of Night's Whisper, which is I think also kind of interesting for that deck. Just looking for a little more gas. But I think the most interesting to me was the way that he set up the mana base. Now I don't know if this could just be a pure like concession to cost
to budget,
but he's not playing any Blackleaf Cliffs. Like any. He has fetches and he has Dragon Skull Summits. He has a Concealed Courtyard. And he's playing a couple more basics than that deck normally plays, and he's just not playing Blackleaf Cliffs at all, which I think is interesting. And when you say like, oh well, wouldn't that be bad? He won the tournament with the deck, so I think that's kind of interesting. And modern mana bases are things that I think become so quickly, just like this is
the optimal thing.
Yeah, this is it. This is the mana base for it. And I think you've seen in the last year, when you had Fetchless Storm become pretty popular, and people were like, "Oh, this is a cheaper option." It's like, well, yeah, but you're just doing so much, with like now with Opt and everything else, doing so much scrying. Maybe you don't want to be fetching that often. You know what I mean? Which I think was at least interesting and led to a cheaper mana base. And I think the same could be true here. If the deck is just as effective. Now, I say just as effective. There's definitely an issue with the fetch shock mana base versus having fast lands, but when he's got things again like Chandra Torch Defiance in the main. Maybe when you have 4-drops, you don't want to play as many fast lands anyways. So I think it's certainly interesting. And if myself, for example, I like this deck. I have all the cards in this deck besides Blackleaf Cliffs, so I've just never really put it together. And now now looking at a mana base, is like there's no reason I could not have tackled a mana base like this as well. And that I think it's kind of interesting. So a lot of credit to him for if it was budget, good on him for figuring it out. If it wasn't budget, then maybe he's just it's a good reminder to check some of those things where we just take mana bases as dogma. When I went to Milwaukee, Chase and I had worked on that that Jeskai deck, and he had a mana base for it, and he flat out said I haven't tested this mana base very much. I'm like, well, I'm going to trust you on this. And by the end of that tournament, we were like, this deck is messed up on its blue and red source numbers. Like we knew this, and that was on us for not having enough into that that 3-color mana base into it. And so sometimes you just got to sit down and see if you can figure it out. So I like it.
Sometimes things start off as budget, and then you play with it, and you're like, "Oh, actually, this is fine."
I mean,
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
sometimes you kind of fall into stuff like that on accident. So, who knows if that was the case here? But
I mean, I don't want to make assumptions, but I do say like even cards like Dragon Skull Summit, these check lands we have in Standard, they're good lands, and I think we forget about that in Modern sometimes, just because you can't fetch it, you can't do this and that. But the sequence of being able to have a fetch on turn 1 and then have another, literally a free dual land after that, it's still very good. So yeah, I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's important that sometimes you push things to see if that they're viable and if they work, and sometimes they just are.
Yeah.
And he defeated Max Hirsch playing humans. Humans still kicking around, which is interesting. It really felt like Bant Spirits had officially like usurped humans as being like the Aether Vial, creature deck.
I don't know. Like obviously, Bant Spirits was very popular. I still think Humans is the better deck. And a card that I saw like even in our matches, but just like looking around and like watching over the weekend, that continues to, when you're looking at like hate cards for things like KCI, whatever else, you know what I mean? Spirits is good, but man, Meddling Mage does a lot of work in a lot of matches that I think that you kind of forget that, like, yeah, you want it to be more disruptive, but Meddling Mage is very good. So I think maybe Human still gets a little bit of the edge that way, and I don't know. And also, maybe just people have the Humans deck versus having the Spirits deck. I don't know.
That's true.
I mean, I think Spirits has a much better sideboard.
I don't disagree with that at all. They can play actual spells.
Yeah, like you just get to play like all the bomb hate cards, Rest in Peace and Stony Silence.
Well, we're going to talk about those in a minute, because I do think that when we're looking at some of the one Boogeyman match of the format, I want to question some of the wisdom on that, at least how effective it is or isn't at any given time. So we'll come back to that. Sure. Let's at least quickly mention that Legacy exists.
Yeah, Legacy's a thing. They had a classic. It was won by Michael Burham playing Azori Stoneblade, defeating.
I do like that deck.
Yeah.
Always have.
Defeating Robert Boyer playing Maverick. So there you go.
Wait, Maverick exists?
Maverick exists. There are multiple copies of it in the top 16.
What?
By multiple, I mean 2, but that's still more than one.
That is more than one. There's that. I like that you got that and the Mono Red Prison deck again. So
heck yeah.
So that's pretty sweet. Oh man, is Orzhov Stoneblade going full back? Like, does it have? Yeah, Lingering Souls. Oh man, we're back to it. Vindicate's in that deck too. Sorry, I'm talking about the 14th place list, Owen Watson's deck. So,
how about actual Grixis Death Shadow?
Ooh,
not blue black shadow. Actual Grixis with lightning bolts.
Housing running right.
Colgan's Command in the sideboard and a braid.
And Pyroblast.
Like we're playing modern over here.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I do think that while I'm not a huge Legacy person, I think that that's one where you can point to recent bannings that definitely have made Legacy a better format. It's return. Some of the decks that were sort of the classic decks in Legacy have returned, like Stoneblade, and I think that's probably good for the format. Sorry, Deathrite Shaman, you were just too good for this world.
You were living on borrowed time for so long, in Legacy, and they finally did the wise thing and said, "Get out." And now I think you're right. I think Legacy is still a format I genuinely don't care about, but is probably better. So, having talked about all these tournaments, can we move on to this endpoint discussion that I so ignorantly ignored while in the show notes?
Gosh, we'll keep you around, but
I appreciate that. So basically, we want to talk about KCI and kind of where the deck is and what a lot of people are saying about it. And this discussion was kind of spurred on by something that Seth Manfield tweeted out. And it was in response to something that Christian Calcano tweeted out. And they said that they don't want KCI getting banned. Seth says, I agree to Calcano on that point. KCI shouldn't be banned, in my opinion. We see very, very good players do well with the deck, but it's really tough to play. I don't think it is doing anything inherently broken. I know I'm in the minority here, but I'd rather see an unbanning or people play more Stony Silence. That was his general sort of take with KCI.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting if you go find that tweet, he tweeted that out today. The original Kakano tweet also has some interesting responses to it from some prominent people like LSV and Patrick Sullivan. But I posted this tweet and sort of talked about it in show chat today because I thought it was at least interesting. So when he says, so let's talk about what KCI did. KCI had 4 of the top 8 lists in the GP, is in multiple lists, in multiple teams and representation in the Team Open. So it's gaining metagame share. It's a miserable deck, and I know that's not always a great reason to ban something. I don't want to be the person who jumps the gun and just be like, ban everything. But it's a miserable deck. And other decks have been banned for similar reasons, for taking up a lot of clock time, for being horrific to watch, specifically Second Sunrise.
Yeah, what up, eggs?
Eggs, Sensei's Divining Top.
But it's also true. But I also think that something that Seth Manfield says here is something that is sort of ignored about KCI. So he says it doesn't do anything inherently broken. KCI is a really borderline rules heavy deck. It has to use the timing restriction, the narrow timing rules of mana source rules to be able to use its targets correctly, right? Which is a really, really obscure rules check you have to do on the deck. And quite literally, we saw recently that the rules changed because of new cards when we had the expertises, right? And they were casting things like Beck and Call. Well, you know what? Those have been, their CMCs have essentially been changed, so you can't do that anymore. So when he's like, it's not doing anything inherently broken, I'm like, well, it's really closely playing within what the rules are for timing. So I don't think you can say that it's not inherently broken. Does that make sense?
Yeah, not to mention it can go off on turn 3, but
Hey, that's a rule of the format. But the other thing that he says is that also he just wishes people would play more Sony silences. Does he?
that's
does he really think that people aren't
been proven not to work?
So out of more than pretty much any other deck we've seen, KCI is resilient to hate. You could watch it on either coverage stream this weekend. The people playing KCI, the winning through Stony Silences, winning through Rest in Pieces, winning through multiple Eidolons. That was the craziest one. Winning through double Eidolon of the Great Revel, right? The versions of the deck that exist now, where Psy is their essential secondary win condition, can do a ton of work without actually having to combo off.
Yeah, that's the worst part, because you had this. The reason that KCI is somewhat miserable when they're comboing off is that they can fizzle. So you can't just it's not just a repeatable loop that they can show you and demonstrate and be like, I won, like Splinter Twin was. You won with Splinter Twin pretty much, unless your opponent had interaction.
Well, there is one infinite loop once you have the double trawler, the mirror retriever.
Sure.
Right. Yes. Once you have all of that, then you can demonstrate it. But you're right.
But most of the time they are working their way to getting that, and there is a potential that they can't.
Yes.
It takes a while to get there.
Right, and that was the same thing with eggs, where there was not something that was necessarily guaranteed, but it just took them, them taking all the actions for the turn, and it's just so miserable to be across from that and just be eating up people's time.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I don't know. It seems frustrating to me, and I don't say this to call out. I'm not calling out Seth Manfield here, because that's not what I mean. But I think that opinion of some people that it's okay that it does this because only the best players do well with it is one. It's such a crazy thing. The same thing was true. The best Miracle player can play it effectively. Okay, great. And then the other X people in a tournament playing it can't
ineffectively.
It's even more miserable when you're playing against somebody that's really not familiar with it, because it takes longer.
Correct.
Yes.
And isn't,
yes,
you'll know when you're playing against somebody who's played KCI and somebody who hasn't, and it's just.
Elliot, we are not calling you out.
Yeah.
This is not an
We're
attack.
not calling out Elliot specifically.
But it's just for the sheer fact that I never think that argument holds water, right? Because on a long enough timeline, if it's just the best deck, people are going to spend time in it, invest and learn it. That's just how it's going to be. So yes, while right now only the good players are playing it to success, again, if it still continues to be the best deck, and we can look at it objectively and be like, this is the best deck in the format, if you can learn how to play it, people are just going to do that. Like, they're just going to take the time and be like, well, I guess I'm going to learn this. And then we just have the best deck of the format, and that's all people are going to play.
We also have like something like Amulet Titan that's comparable to this, right? Where like if a deck is winning in a way that is, unintuitive to what the format is able to combat, right? Like Summer Bloom gets banned, and look, Amulet Titan is still a deck. I don't want KCI to still be a deck. I don't even care. Just ban Karkland Ironworks out, whatever. But I think that suggesting that like it shouldn't is very frustrating. He says he would rather see unbannings. Yeah, I agree. And like modern is not. People have said like, well, KCI doesn't see that much play, so he even says here not a lot of people are playing it. Yeah, but that has not been a consistent reason to ban something, anyways. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Splinter Twin saw a fair amount of metagame share, but they flat out banned it because they said it was keeping other decks away. You know what I mean? Not because it was inherently doing something.
Yeah, it hurt deck diversity.
Yeah, ugh. I just I think that argument's really bad, and I think if you look at that the Christian Cocano one, I think LSV says a deck being unfun to play against that's watch is by far the best reason to ban it. Assuming it's good enough to show up in the reasonable numbers, the whole point of the game and the way it succeeds is how fun Magic is to play or watch. And Patrick Sullivan says, I think a deck that monopolizes the clock, holding priority and taking a bunch of repetitive actions the opponent has to sit through because there's a non-trivial chance the deck fails in various spots is a different level of unfun than any normal modern deck.
Right.
So,
yeah, and you can make the argument, like you could say like, well, Tron is like also unfun to play against sometimes, right? When they turn 3 Carnu, whatever.
Right, but it's over.
But at least it's over.
It's over.
Right? You're not just sitting there doing nothing for like 5 minutes while they try to go off. It's just, yeah. I don't think the deck is too good because you can definitely play decks that are good against it or sideboard in a way to beat it, and that's kind of what I tried to do. With playing Kiln Fiends. And I was successful in that. But it's just a miserable deck. I don't hate it because it's too good. I hate it just because it's a miserable deck. And when you're playing against it, and it's just...
playing against it is just unfun. And I think that, even more so, the way the deck is set up, there are so many times that you can have, the right sideboard cards against them and watch them, just draw out of it, which is so... that's so difficult. But I think the other part of that too is looking at coverage, and what Sullivan just said there, and what you just said there, right? If Tron assembles Tron on turn 3 and casts Karn, right, and the opponent concedes, the person watching the game goes, okay, they did this specific thing and that was good, right? A person who's trying to watch KCI go off at any given point doesn't know if that player is actually winning or not. And doesn't know what's actually going on. The way they have to go out of their way to represent things, right? And you could argue that Storm's the same way, but if you're arguing Storm's the same way, look at how they have neutered Storm. Because they have.
Yeah.
I
was just going to mention Storm too. So I don't have a problem with Storm, and you could say well, these are very similar decks, but with Storm, I think it's been around long enough where you could look and see okay, they've done this and this and this. They've cast gifts and given. The writing's on the wall. You're going to lose.
Right.
KCI, it's not like that.
No, they're building to an actual thing that's going to happen. This is true.
So.
Yeah, I hope they take some action against KCI. It could be an action that goes against more of the format. We already, Morgan and I have already talked a fair amount about how cards like Faithless Looting and Ancient Stirrings are at the point where they're I don't know. And maybe that's fair. Maybe without brainstorming the format, it's okay that other cantrips are good in other formats. But some of the things that specifically Ancient Stirrings is currently allowing to happen is tough. It really is. We played this weekend and you watched Elliot, who's playing Death Shadow, lose a game where his opponent definitely messed up his turn a few times. And then, he killed a scrap trawler, and the guy, sighed, and was well, I have this Ancient Stirrings, and found the second scrap trawler, was able to keep going off. So the guy, messed up multiple times, had his trawler killed, but he got to look at the top 5 cards of his library and found the next one. And that can be tough to stomach sometimes when you're playing against those decks. So if they take action that way, or if they take the action like they did against, Eggs and just sort of ban the engine card, you know what I mean? This case, probably Karkland Ironworks. I don't know, but I think something's going to change.
I think if what do we have, a couple weeks until
it'll be what
in our list?
It'll be a week after the new set or 2 weeks after the new set.
I think it's sometime in January. I still think.
Yeah,
wasn't it the week or the Monday after the pre-release?
Yeah, maybe that's it. So maybe it coincides with set release then. Yes.
So I think most likely scenario, if anything gets banned, I think it's just going to be KCI.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't think if they take away Ancient Stirrings or like Mox Opal, you're just killing like
A lot of
Hardened
decks.
Scales and Affinity and
Tron.
whatever and Tron and like I think they value deck diversity more than.
Yeah, and that's fair. I don't disagree with that. It probably is KCI. I want, and again, it would be nice if they unbanned something too. But I get really frustrated with the idea that it's just people complaining who aren't trying. Like, look at the format. People are packing hate for the deck. The problem
people
is,
know it exists. They're not ignorant.
yeah,
to it.
and it isn't like other decks in the format. Where if Affinity does really really well, then like yes, you can pack the hate that makes the deck go quiet, or Dredge, right? Like people are packing the hate right now, and KCI doesn't care.
The thing that's tough, and I think especially on the GP level, is you talked about KCI is gaining format share. It's
Right.
gaining more popularity, but for a while there, it really was kind of on the outskirts. It's like, well, I mean, if there's 5 people in the room that can like really play this deck well, how much hate do I really want to put in my sideboard for
Right.
like I might not even play this matchup, and then I just have some dead
yeah,
cards.
and then
You know what I
you're
mean?
just
So it's
hurting
like-
your other matchups.
Yeah, so you're kind of like putting yourself in the squeeze there, where it's like, well, I could prepare for this, but then I may not. I have, a very high percentage of I'm probably not going to play against this matchup.
Right.
And then if you don't prepare for it, and then you do end up, maybe you're playing for top 8 or something like that, and it's like, oh, I got paired against Matt Nass. Well,
Yeah.
That's
Then
game.
then it's like, cool. What does it matter?
yeah. So I mean, I think now it's more justifiable to play more hate, but for a little while there, it's kind of, and I think that you could say maybe that is what has contributed to KCI doing so well, is like people aren't respecting it enough, or maybe in your local area nobody plays KCI, so you're just like, well, whatever, I might be able to beat it if I play against it, or on the off chance, whatever. So I don't know. It's in a tough spot, but yeah, something's gonna change, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think like people, specific group of people would be upset about it. And again, anybody can be upset when their deck gets banned, and I don't blame you for that. But at the same time, like,
I don't think anybody would be surprised.
Yeah, like-
anybody that plays KCI, I don't think any one person would be surprised if that
Like,
gets
just
banned.
imagine
It's
what
come on,
you're,
you-
like-
You know what you're doing.
imagine what your turn structure is, and just be like, oh yeah, like that's right, this is bad. So
In honesty, I think that they should just get it over with and ban Ancient Stirrings. To be perfectly honest, I think that Ancient Stirrings enables like some okay things, but also some broken things, and I think it'll continue to be something that is a thorn in their side as long as Modern exists. So I think that they should just like put the nail in the coffin and be like, we'll get this out of here, and do with that what they may.
yeah,
I just think like it's always going to be a problem. It's always going to have the potentiality to enable things that people don't like, and maybe that's not really reason to ban it, but it's just like, why not?
yeah, that's fair.
So that's going to be it for all of the competitive tournaments. Let's take a look and see what's happening over this weekend. So we have Star City Games Worcester, who's going to be Modern. And then we have Magic Fest Prague, which will be limited.
Yeah, Magic Fest. I don't know. It's literally what it says on the event, like dates now, and it's just like, ugh. I guess.
All right. So those are going to be kind of the things that are happening over the weekend that you can definitely check out. So, this is something that I don't know actually if MTG Cast has actually been back up, but they had gone down for a bit. So again, So we sent that tweet out. So if you were listening to us via MTG Cast, they did have some sort of server failure, which is fairly disappointing and bad. I know there are a lot of that's a huge place where people get a lot of podcasts from. So if you have been getting our show from that and listening to them, we do encourage you to actually subscribe to our RSS feed either directly from our website, which is at yourendstep.com, or through your podcast app, through your Apple phone, your iPhone, or if you have an Android app that does podcasts.
Or through an
as
actual
well.
Apple. I don't know. Just plug some headphones in.
Just yell it
Maybe
in
we're
there.
there.
Just bite into it and be like, "Oh, there's At Your End Step."
I always knew you were a Granny Smith.
But just to make sure you can still continue to listen to the show, and then we certainly hope that everything over at MTG Cast gets resolved as soon as possible.
That's a mess over there. Unfortunately,
it was a big bummer to kind of hear about it. So, from what we understand, they haven't lost any data, but just getting everything back online is kind of a nightmare, I imagine. So, so just a quick PSA up at the top. We do, of course, want to give another thank you to our sponsor, Comic Town. Again, check them out at Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. We do have a Patreon as well if you want to enjoy the show via that and actually contribute to the show on a per-episode basis. You can check that out at patreon.com/@yourendstep. If you want to reach out to us on Twitter, it's yourendstep is the Twitter handle. And when you add us, it'll be @yourendstep. We also have an email address, @yourendstep@gmail.com. But I believe that's going to be everything for us. Oh, we have Facebook as well. Facebook.com/@yourendstep.
that's also one. Yeah.
That's also another avenue that you can reach out to us. This is episode 249, so next one's going to be 250, which is wild. Doing this for quite some time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just got like this weird like shell shocked feeling. I was like, oh man,
Have fun with that, guys. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. 250 is going to be Palooza probably. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You will also have fun with that. But we will catch you guys next time. You have a great one. Bye.